Okay, so today we're going to try to fix this windshield wiper blade motor and figure out what's going on with it. So the first thing I had to figure out how is to get this arm off here, and so apparently this flips up. And there's my nut that I need to remove, and believe it or not, it's not even rusty. So we'll start the video up again here once I get a little bit further ahead. So I'm just going to remove that nut, and then I'm also going to have to take off all of these bolts and remove this whole inner unit here because the motor's back here somewhere. And so I'm going to chip away at doing that, and then I'll let you know how I make out. Alright, so getting these things out here, they're basically little clips that look like this. You pop these out first. This one actually came out in both pieces together, and then I think you just basically slide a screwdriver underneath these things and pry them out. Just like that. Okay, next up is removing this. And it's got a couple of clips in behind it, and you know, good firm pry with the screwdriver, and it popped right off. So I'm gonna have to do the same thing over to this side because they're overlapped right here, and you gotta get this off, I think, to get this off. And when I looked inside in here, I don't know if you can see this or not, there is a little clip in there. So if you're wondering the easiest way to get these off, there's actually some little pry points right here that you just have to reach inside and give them a little click and they pop right off. So that's all you got to do. Okay, so I found a few more pressure clips here. There's one here, there's one there. They go into these little holes. There's also one back there you can probably see. So I'm going to assume that there is also another one in the middle and mirror clips on the other sides. Okay, so here's the wiper motor. It's got 3 bolts, one here, one back there, and one over on that side. I've got to disconnect this electrical clip, and then once I get those off, I'm going to take these screws off and check to see if the motor's seized, or I'm going to disconnect some of the things inside it and check to see if the motor's still working or not, or whether I've just got a seized unit up in here. Okay, so these bolts take a 10mm socket, and I have a small socket extension on here so that I don't scuff my fingers when I go taking these bolts off. So as you can see, I've got these 2 bolts taken out. I'm just getting out the last bolt right now, and they're fairly long, probably a good inch long. So now they're all unbolted, but because the shaft is still going through the inside of the rear hatch, it's not going to let go until I get that wiper blade off. But before I do that, I'm going to take these screws off here, disconnect the unit, and see if the motor's still working. So these screws are quite short, and they weren't too difficult to take off. You just want to make sure you don't strip them. Being Phillips head, they're pretty easy to bugger up. Okay, now it's all apart. It's disconnected from the car. You can see that thing's just hanging there. A couple of things to note when I took this apart. This little guide here, which is a little out of focus right now, this spins like so on the back side, actually belongs right inside of this. Now, when I took this apart, it was very likely I could have actually just dropped this little thing on the ground, never known that it was gone. So be careful when you take this apart. It's got a few little things like that, and so I'm just going to safely... It seems to be that it's really stiff in here, which I've read some other people talk about this area getting some rust in there and seizing up, and so I might just have to work this free. So I'm just gonna go put the keys in the car and test that motor to see if it's actually running back and forth. Seems I was wrong. I've got the windshield wiper motor turned on and that motor's not clicking back and forth, so my only other option I think right now is to check to see if the fuse is blown. Maybe probably should have checked that first. Oh well. So now that I've ruled out that it isn't any of the onboard fuses up front and the motor doesn't work, it's probably still getting adequate power, so I'm thinking that if anything is wrong, it's probably in here. Might be able to get that rebuilt, or I might just have to order myself a whole new part. So I'm going to finish the job here, and I'm going to take the bolt out of the top of the window wiper arm, and I'm going to take the whole thing out. Okay, so the bolt's off now, but problem is this wiper arm is fairly tight and I can't seem to wiggle it off no matter what I do. So I'm going to try just giving it a light little tap here with a hammer. Try not to bugger up those threads. Otherwise I might have to go and get a washer arm puller, which is a little device that hooks underneath here and with a thumb screw drives a bolt into the head of that thing and pulls the whole thing off. So hopefully I'll be able to just tap it off, but we'll see. Okay, so I've got my hammer now, but just as a way to make sure that I don't bugger those threads up too bad, I'm just going to put the nut back on it. Put most of the threads down onto the nut so that I can hammer the nut and not the bolt. And that's just an old trick my dad taught me on how to make sure you don't screw up the end of your bolt. Well, looks like that's as far as I'm going to get today. I tried pounding it down inside to no avail, so I'm going to go to the local tool store, Canadian Tire, and I'm going to pick up a wiper arm puller. They're about $7 or $8, and they can be used on pulling your battery terminals off and all that kind of stuff. So we'll pick up later.